Hey guys, I'm reacting to 8 ways British and American education systems are very different. Now, it really does depend because the American education system is so different state to state too. But yeah, let's get into it.
In America, they're all about their Latin, so honours are signified by phrases like cum laude, magna cum laude, cumulonimbus, or cactus priculus. Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to education. Before we get underway, some disclaimers. Britain is made up of 3 countries, England, Scotland and Wales, while the UK also includes Northern Ireland. Because each country has a separate education system operating under a different government, comparing British and American approaches could take as long as a doctoral program.
Lost at the US, each state, and each regional area.
Therefore, when it comes to Britain, I'm going to focus on the country of my own schooling, England. For more details on the other countries, see my links in the description. Furthermore, some of the finer details of US education can vary by state, school district and school.
Exactly.
So for some things in today's video, there will be exceptions that prove the rule. Basically, there's going to be a part 2. Ahead of his election victory in 1997, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair summed up his political priorities with 3 words: education, education, education. The problem was, he didn't specify in what order. Schools in England date back to about the year 598. They were introduced by Augustine of Canterbury, who, like many in the 6th century, resembled a sketch of somebody from the 6th century. On the other hand, the first public school in America was the Boston Latin School. It was modelled after a grammar school in Boston, England, and among its notable alumni.
Interesting. Although I would imagine there would have been some sort of education among Native Americans, of course, education. There may have been some rudimentary type of schooling system. I'm pretty sure there was, at least in the wider American continent, though.
Alumni was Benjamin Franklin. History notes that he didn't actually graduate and quit the school at the age of 10, and he didn't even have a Nintendo Switch. Fast forward to 2020 and today's kids haven't got a clue where the word fast forward comes from. But also those kids, like us before them, are cogs in an educational machine that has been worked and refined for hundreds of years. Except on either side of the pond,
not really, a lot of it's stagnated.
That machine is a different make and model. In fact, English and American education is very different, as somebody...
Although with the pandemic, we have done a lot of online education, which is at least something. That's a massive speed up. That's a massive fast forward.
Who was schooled the English way but married an American teacher, I'm going to take a look at those differences. Before we look at the education life cycle, let's talk about one of the most striking visual differences between English and American schools: uniforms. In the United States, most schools don't require one. Brits like me know this because we've seen Saved by the Bell, but that doesn't give us the whole picture. American schools do enforce a dress code. This varies by school, but in general you might see kids wearing things like khakis and polo shirts, basically anything worn by 55-year-old professionals called Scott. There's typically no requirement that these clothes have to match from student to student. And while some private schools do require uniforms, this is the exception that proves the rule. In England...
in the South, they have a lot of private schools. Southeast.
Everything's flipped, and I'm not just talking about the roads. 90% of English schools require pupils to wear identical uniforms. Think Hogwarts without all the fun stuff. And what's fascinating is there's no government mandate for schools to do this, they just do it. It really makes me wish I'd put forth a more vociferous protest against the autocratic infrastructure of my school when I was 5, but we all have regrets. It's true that both countries employ a numbering system to denote a child's educational development. In England, this is measured by year, and in America, by grade. And there's a slight difference in how this plays out. England's numbering system is always 1 higher than America's. So, for example, English kids in year 2 are the same age as American kids in the first grade.
Interesting.
And this is the same all the way up to year 13/12th grade. This doesn't mean that English schools randomly hold children back a year. It just means that the English year 1 serves the same purpose as America's kindergarten. On the whole, English and American kids attend school between about 5 and 18, but that's not the entire story. Even before all of this, there's a 2-year warm-up session. Between 3 and 5, when children still can't do easy stuff like...
Well, even before preschool, there might be a nursery. Some kids go to.
Order pizza or filter spreadsheets. Parents in both countries have them sent off to something called preschool. And instead of getting punished for their abject lack of ability, they're rewarded with free playtime. Madness. Except in England, we don't normally call it preschool. This period is broken up into what is known as nursery and reception year. Confusingly,
also they do have a nursery, but yeah, our nursery's before. I guess yeah, but we usually don't put nursery into preschool. Nursery's before preschool.
It is technically the first year of school, and year 1 is the second year. Among other things, this explains why I'm so bad at maths.
And they also call math. They call that maths, which is it's just an abbreviation of course, mathematics. But Americans don't include the S at the end because we just shorten mathematics to math, and Brits shorten it to maths. They include the S at the end, which kind of doesn't actually make much sense because you're just shortening the word. But I mean, it's fine.
In America, the school where children advance to next is known as elementary, but to English people, that's just a word that Sherlock Holmes uses when he wants to...
Yeah, elementary school, primary school. Elementary is probably more common.
This period of education is where children from the ages of about 6 to 11 are first introduced to the broad range of knowledge they'll need to succeed in life. So, handling basic arithmetic, developing spelling ability, and explaining grass stains. In England, schools handling this period of primary education are known as primary schools, but in America, primaries are a series of state elections for nominating a party candidate.
We do have primaries, yeah, we call those things primaries as well. But I mean, primary school is not a unheard of term either.
Which occur roughly every week forever. And then there's the average class size. In the US, the average class size for self-contained elementary classes is about 22. Just saying that out loud, I can already hear the laughter from teachers in states where the average is much higher. For instance, Utah, where it's 27. As it happens though, 27 is the national average for English primary schools. This was even the case when I was at school back in 1782. In the United States, middle...
I think that was just a joke about us, when you went to school.
School is an alternate dimension that exists between elementary school and high school education. This dark underworld of sorcery is where teachers become locked in a battle of wits against a hive mind of monsters known as 8th graders. The average class size for departmentalized instruction is about 25, which only adds an extra layer to this already cruel hellscape. In England, it goes like this. The upside down is known generally as secondary school. Mercifully, the average class size is about 22, but while this nightmarish period of education, as with the United States, roughly encompasses the age of 11 to 14, it doesn't end there. In England, it drags on for another 2 years, coinciding age-wise with America's freshman and sophomore years of high school, which, by the way, brings us on to this. Yes, high school. In the United States, this is a period of education from the ages of about 14 to 18. After freshman and sophomore year comes grade 11 or junior year and grade 12, senior year. This is typically when the students begin their development into humans, but it's also when most students take their SATs, a series of tests to determine readiness for college. These are not to be confused with the English SATs or SATs, which are assessments taken by 7 and 11-year-olds. In England, it is a similar process, but by a different name. And before keyboard warriors like Uncle Toby start writing in all caps that we have high schools in the UK, I know we do. But to keep things simple, that same period of schooling is typically structured like this. Age-wise, the last 2 years of secondary school are to England what freshman and sophomore years are to America. This is when pupils across the country take GCSE tests in all their subjects to determine suitability for further qualifications. Meanwhile, the English age equivalents of junior and senior year take place in what is known as sixth form or college.
Yeah, I've heard of sixth form college, and they call pretty much their college would be like 11th and 12th grade for the US. And I think in the UK you used to be able to leave school at like 16. But I heard it's changing a bit. But yeah.
This is the point in education where we stop wearing uniforms and start dressing like John Travolta. It's also where we study 2 or 3 chosen specialised subjects as part of our A-levels. For me, this was English, history and theatre studies, because that's how you...
Would be good if we were a bit more focused in these upper years, though. I mean, there are definitely specialised schools and specialised programs, vocational schools, but a lot of people just go for general high school.
Become a YouTube sensation. The results of these tests determine your suitability for university. They're often compared to America's advanced placement exams. But while both help to determine a student's path in higher education, they're not entirely the same thing. That being said, higher education does come with its own differences. In the US, college means something entirely different.
Yes.
It's the general catch.
For us, college would be university, yeah, which they just call uni, and uni/university in the UK and in a lot of other countries. But in the US, that's either college or just university.
Natural term for an institution of higher education. In England, this is referred to as university or uni because everything devolves into slang at some point. Of course, specific institutions in both countries play hard and fast with this rule. See, for example, Harvard University and Imperial College, London. For American students, a bog-standard bachelor's degree takes 4 years to complete, while in England, unless I, somehow skipped a year, which is entirely plausible in hindsight, a bachelor's degree typically lasts 3 years. Upon completion, students in both countries can graduate with honours.
Oh, that's nice. Wish it lasted 3 years. That'd be nicer.
Difference, though, is how this is printed on a degree transcript. In England, Bachelor of Arts or
because associate's degree take about 2 years in the US, so
BA might be followed by the word honours or ons, because see previous comment about slang. In America, they're all about their Latin, so honours are signified by phrases like cum laude, magna cum laude, cumulonimbus, or cactus priculus.
Yeah, I mean, but still, like the Latin. Oh man, the Latin pronunciation. I'm pretty sure that it was saying cum laude, something like that. I mean, if you were pronouncing it like in classical Latin, you would say more like that. It's very phonetic. It wouldn't be cum laude. That's, I mean, that sounds like something else, but also it's not really proper pronunciation for Latin. But I mean, a lot of Latin phrases and such we don't pronounce properly, unfortunately. But I'm pretty sure it was just saying this word, yeah. With honor, used to express academic distinction. With honor, with academic. Yeah. So, the U in Latin would be pronounced U, and of course, you pronounce like every vowel. So it'd be cum laude. Yeah, cum laude. Which I mean, I think sounds a bit cooler. If you just pronounce everything, it's easy. Makes sense. But yeah, I mean. That would be classical Latin for you. Church, I mean, ecclesiastical Latin, church Latin might be a little bit differently, but it's still pretty similar. Yeah.
Like any good teacher, I've left the best bit until the end of class. It wouldn't be America and England if they weren't separated by a common language. So let's take a rapid-fire look at the differences in educational terminology. As we've already seen, you've got grade versus year, but you've also got semester versus term. While America has its students, England has its pupils. Whether or not they attend elementary school or primary school, high school or college or uni, there's a good chance they'll have to study maths. And in England, we don't take tests, we take exams.
No, I mean, exams are used in the US as well. Sometimes in a more official capacity, I guess. But I mean, you could use either one. But usually test is more common, yeah.
In England, a rubber erases a mistake. In America, it prevents one. And
yeah. He's just referring to what's it call it? In the US, I guess you call a condom, you call that a rubber. No, I mean yeah, in the US a condom is called a rubber. But in the in UK they call erasers. They call those rubbers. Which I mean I don't think makes all that much sense. I mean, I guess they made it a rubber, but you know, the American term describes what it's used for: erasing, getting rid of a mistake. Yeah, and this is an eraser, just to make it clear. These types of things are used to get rid of pencil marks and such. In the UK, they call them they call them rubbers. They call these rubbers in the UK, and in the US we call these things erasers, which I think makes a bit more sense in this case. Yeah, you know, so you're getting rid of your mistake. Let's see. Yeah, also known as rubber in Commonwealth countries, and the material first used. Okay, so I guess it was first used. I guess rubber was first used for erasers. Yeah, and they have a rubbery consistency. Yeah, the term is also used for things that remove marks from chalkboards and whiteboards. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Speaking of words that have different meanings, let's finish today's class and/or module by talking about two words that perennially cause confusion. Public school. In the United States, a public school is one that is publicly funded and free for students to attend. In 2016, more than 70% of students were publicly educated in the US as opposed to privately educated. In England, a public school is something different. In the late 1800s, the term public was used in the sense of these schools being open to pupils of any locality, denomination, or paternal trade. Basically, anyone whose parents could afford it. So an English public school is a private school. A publicly funded school, on the other hand, is called a state school, which has nothing to do with state universities in America. It's all confusing, and I've lost my train of thought.
I think private school... I think private school and public school make more sense for terminology. But I probably can't change it or anything. So it's fine. I mean, as long as you get the meaning, state school makes sense as well.
Saved by the bell. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me. Let me know in the comments below if you've attended a school in either America or the United Kingdom and you have some other suggestions for entries for part 2. If you like the sound of...
Yeah, I've attended school in the US and in another country, but never in the UK. I've not attended school in the UK, so of course this is all like on stuff I've heard. But I think generally that most of the stuff is understandable between both the UK and US, even though the terminology might be different. But I think if you really look at the words, they're generally understandable. Like maths, rubber, I think you can understand what they're referring to for the most part. A bit of context would help as well. Anyway, let's take a look at the comments. American teachers, the bell doesn't dismiss you. I do. Yep, that's a common phrase, they might say. They were the same teachers who when you asked to go to the restroom, they would reply with, I don't know, can you? This is even a problem in college. Yeah. In England, I'll probably raise some mistake in America if it prevents one. Brilliant. Yeah. When I went to school years ago, a quiz was a small test. Oh yeah, quiz. Quiz, that's a word. We sometimes use that. A test was a medium test, and the exam was a very large test. Hope that makes sense. I think that's generally accurate. Yeah. Quiz easiest, test a bit harder, and exam the hardest. High school. This is typically when students begin the development of the humans. You win the internet today. You are a blast to listen to. Your diction and facial expressions make my day. Thanks for the chuckles. Cheerio. The only thing that stuck with me from American education is mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Yep, great shit. Alright, that was fun to watch. If you enjoyed my reaction, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Comment down below differences between your schooling and US or UK schooling. That's about it. Thanks for